I was a qualified coach, so I'd already done all my training and lots of practice, and I was working in employment, and I kind of dabbled for a couple of years outside. You know, when you're working in a busy job, you don't have that much spare time to be involved in anything else. But I did dabble because I always loved coaching, so it was never something that left me, but I did it in my role as well. So I'd played for a bit, but I can honestly say the thing that made me leap, and it was a giant leap, was this massive compulsion that I had. So I had this really strong sense of calling, that it was what I was meant to be doing. And I also happened to be working with a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners at the time who were encouraging me, and it was encouraging to see what they were doing. So I was probably in a great place, really. And but yeah, it was a big leap. I started from scratch, really, um, with not much of a massive plan, but just loads of motivation and just this sense of knowing that it was for me. And I started my full-time coaching practice in October 2019. So the first challenge was the C word, lockdown, because that came 6 months later or thereabouts. So that was a big challenge because the business that I had built up was face to face, and all my clients were business owners. So they just went into a total state of flux because obviously, as we know, they were just having to firefight their own situations in their businesses. So I actually had no business for a month, and I thought, oh my goodness, what's going to happen now? So yeah, I had a big challenge fairly early on, and I had to change the way that I did business. So I'd not really used Zoom before then. So obviously Zoom became one of my main go-to. So all my work that I could transition over to Zoom, that happened. And then because of the connections that I had and a great network, I got some good opportunities where I was coaching and facilitating groups of business owners, peer-to-peer discussion groups with very inspirational women in business. So that was a saving grace, really. So yeah, I just had to pivot. I I have I have some different beliefs around this sort of thing because my specialist subject is spiritual intelligence. So I tend to look at things through quite a different lens. So I don't really believe there are mistakes. I think we're meant to have experiences and challenges, because probably one of the biggest things that I've got from my business, apart from a business, is my personal growth and development. Because I think when you choose to go self-employed, you're opening the gateways to experiences that you wouldn't necessarily have in the same way if you were employed. There's lots of parallels, but it is different because it's you. You're having to sell you and your own services, and that's quite different too. I could sell other people's services all day long. So the biggest challenge was that I was selling me, and on my journey, what I did changed dramatically because of like the transformation that I went through, and so I don't believe that anything should have been different, even the really hard stuff, because I think it's important that you learn from it. And I think we can all hypothesize about learning. We can have theories, we can read books. Words don't teach at the same level as experience. So you have to have the experience, because it's not just about the obvious. You're learning about yourself along the way, and things that you can work on within yourself. So I would just, if I could say something to the me that was starting out, I'd say be prepared for the challenges, because they will come. It's okay to make mistakes. That's normal. That's how we learn. And as long as we are learning, that's all good. And the challenges make you stronger. So, in terms of feast or famine, yes, there's always cycles, aren't there, in businesses, and some people's will be literally seasonal. Mine isn't particularly seasonal, but I can speak to feast or famine. So, in feast periods, I think it's quite helpful to help you understand what work is important to you and what you really want to be doing. So, there have been times when I've had a lot of work, but it hasn't necessarily been the kind of work that I really want to do. So then you can check in with your values, can't you, to slim that down. On the famine side, I have had a very extreme version of that. So uh, because of the journey that I've been on, I went through a spiritual awakening and I was a diehard skeptic, so that's quite a rough crossing. I actually had 3 years of depression, and I was in a lot of emotional pain, and I was also physically depleted. So I went down to having a third of the energy that I would normally have, and physically became very weak. So I literally couldn't perform at any level as to how I was doing. So that had massive impact on my finances. And it ironically, it was a time when my skills were probably getting better than they've ever been. And that keeps growing, which is wonderful. So I could say normal things like save some money and blah, 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 but other people will say that. What I will say is it was one of the greatest lessons that I've ever had, because it taught me who I really was. It taught me so much that would be too much to explain on here. But in terms of like the financial side, it showed me where my actual abundance blocks were. And I was a much better giver than receiver. I was much better at giving to other people than being able to accept and receive myself. So there's some really, really big lessons I learned around that. And also that I hadn't valued myself enough, because self-belief is the biggest thing you can have as a freelancer. So it taught me so much. And it also taught me where my security actually is, which is in recognizing my own ability, rather than thinking it's something outside of you, because as a freelancer, it's very easy to have to rely on external validation. And yes, we do want feedback, but at the core of you, you really have to know that what you're doing is right and good, and to have that self-belief. So it was a huge learning for me. And I do tend to have quite hard learning. So it really cements it in and gets it in there. But it set me free from a lot of preconceived ideas that I had, and money beliefs that I had. So I think so to attract clients, or for client acquisition, it's probably for me, it's more referrals and recommendations. That's where I get the vast majority of my business. So then my methods for that will be networking and connections, as well as social media. Being visible on social media does work for me. It's not necessary for everybody, I know. Um, and my newsletter as well. I have a newsletter which I send out to subscribers. So those are probably my main ways of attracting clients and keeping them. I would say the best thing you can do is a damn good job. So that's all I rely on. I don't chase people. People are busy. I don't try and position myself, in a certain way, or contact people all the time. I just stay visible, and I do such a good job that people will want to have me back if that's a good fit, and I just trust that if you're doing what you do and you're doing it well, that doing what you love and you're doing it well, then people are going to contact you again, because it's that belief that you have, isn't it? And I think reputation is really important. And whenever I do a job, I never put my name to something that I won't commit to 100%. So I have a reputation for responsibility and delivering what I say I'm going to deliver, which I thought was normal. But I've since realized, and people will have this journey and have to go on this journey as freelancers. Not everybody does what they say they are going to do, but I do. So I think people have the trust with you, don't they? And if somebody contacted me to say, could you do this, Amanda, or would you be interested in this, or we've got this opportunity, I always make sure that it lines up properly with what I deliver. So I never say yes to it. And I have been in quite extreme financial challenge when I went through my hardest years that were personal, that then impacted my business. And I still never said yes to things that didn't align, or took things because I thought, "Ooh, I'll have to," because I'm really believing a win-win situation for yourself and the client. And if it's not there, oh, it has major consequences, you know, beyond that. It's just so not worth it. So that's how I treat that. I think intuition is very important when it comes to red flags for clients, or potentially people that aren't going to be aligned with you. So to trust that, because I 100% trust my intuition now, and I have very, I developed some extra sensory abilities along with that, so that's interesting. But prior to that, I didn't trust them because I was so skeptical. So I sometimes would have intuition and I would override it. If people have said what terrible experiences they have had with other coaches, that is a warning zone. You're going to be dealing with some sort of victim mentality there, and that's I mean, we all have victim mentality, and I do help people with that, but not when they don't want to learn, or they think, yeah, it's very, very messy. I do sometimes turn down work, although less so now, because I think the more aligned you are with your work, the less you get approached with, generalist stuff. So I would turn down general well-being work because that's not what I do, or if it's related to physical health. I mean, everything's connected, but if it's very general, it's not me. I'm specialist in spiritual intelligence and emotional intelligence. So I would recommend people in my network who I value for that work, and I've done that, and that's what I love, because I know loads of coaches and lots of people who are in this field, and I really believe in collaboration and sharing, so that's great. And the other one is if it's boring, like I've just got to be excited about doing the work, or if it's a challenge for me, I can get stuck in. But if it's yeah, if it's boring, I just can't. That's just me. Yeah, so in terms of work schedule, I operate on in a couple of different ways. One is my energy. So I tune into my energy, which is something I never did. I just used to have an eternally long to-do list that I would try and hammer my way through. But nowadays I work on my energy because I am my business. So I've got to look after myself to be, to be vibrant, have my full life force ready for the party. So I work on my energy. So if some days I am more tired, I will take care of myself and I will do less and I will just rearrange some things. And so I give myself space. And I think you need to have really strong boundaries to put space in your diary. I think that is the last thing that people find easy to put space in, or they'll just might have a period, a rest period or a quieter period, and then someone will ask for them for something and they'll just go, oh yeah. So a lot of people are very quick to give to other people but not protect their own space. And yeah, we need flexibility, but if an opportunity comes in that lights you up, you're going to go for it. But I do try and manage it that way, so I look after myself more. And then in terms of like, one practical thing I do, which has just come to me, is my phone's on mute permanently. So that's great, because I've probably got an embarrassing ringtone, and if that goes off in the middle of a meeting, that's not good. But I have it on mute, so it's my choice to look at my phone. I do look at it regularly because I have so many apps that are amazing on there, and all the different ways people can contact you nowadays. And I love that. And if I've seen someone has called me, I will ring them back when I can. But I am not that highly responsive, I'm not performing heart surgery or anything immediate or urgent. It can all wait, and I think it's good to know that. So that's on my terms. um is there anything else? How do I manage in terms of deliverables as well, so I just do have that sense of responsibility that I'm very aware of when something needs to get done. And I am more spontaneous these days because I'm quite assured in my work and capabilities. But I am more of a planner. That's my default. In Myers-Briggs, I'll be a J at the end, not a P. So if I've got a piece of work to do, I like to look at the deliverables, right? Does it need to be delivered or performed? And then I have a refinement process, because I write a lot of content and slides, we're doing 40 slides in one deck. So I can't do all that in one day or afternoon, partly because it's just an immense amount of work, but to get it right, to make sure it's engaging for people, to make sure it's constantly meeting the objectives, I have to block periods of time where I know I can go back in. And sometimes I'll totally rewrite something, or I'll have an inspired idea, and then I'll go in and take time over. That is important for me to do the best job that I possibly can without being a total perfectionist. So that's how I do it. I base it on what needs to be delivered and how much time do I personally need to make sure that happens. But I am naturally a productive person. And I think you need to know if you're naturally productive, or I do coach quite a few procrastinators. I don't procrastinate much. I would do too much. So you have to know yourself, don't you? I have to know I would do too much and I have to limit myself, as in, I'd go, oh, let's do an event on this, let's create this workshop, da da da, because I'm very creative. But I couldn't practically manage a lot of that. So that then I pare it back and think, okay, I know that about me. So how do I manage me? And that's about boundaries as well, isn't it? Managing yourself. But other people may procrastinate and waste time. I don't really waste time. So yeah, know yourself. Yeah, I do enjoy working with other people. Again, it's got to be the right people, but there's so much joy from coming together and working with people who have the same kind of passion and vision as you do, because there's so many talented people, aren't there? And you might be really good at what you do, but we are limited to a degree, aren't we? Good at what we do, but there's so much that other people can add to it, so much variety and richness. Um, so I think one of the great ways that that happens, and one of the ways that it's really helped my business, is taking up speaking opportunities. So obviously the networks and connections, that's probably one of my greatest sources of business, is genuine connections with people. And the network choices that we have now is huge compared to what it was, 10 years ago. So I think get out, meet people, connect with people. And if you've got an opportunity to speak, do it and take it, even if it makes you feel nervous, because I'm very introverted. So a lot of people don't believe me, but I am a huge introvert. So being a hermit is quite natural to me. I was more nervous about standing up and speaking in front of people, which is really weird because I'm also a very good facilitator, but it was just having that confidence. So I discovered it's one of my greatest skills is facilitating. So I'm going transitioning more now from one-to-one coaching to one-to-many. And I do a lot more workshops, events, facilitating groups, because sometimes you can discover your greatest strength is hidden behind your biggest fear. And so when you get those opportunities, people get to know you and they get to see you. So don't be afraid to be visible, especially in my line of work. That's how I get my business. If people see me do something, they like what I do and they trust that I can do it. So then if you go and present, especially if you do something that involves teaching people, training, etc., you are just going to show yourself off far more than you would in a 60-second pitch or chatting to people potentially. And yeah, you can get great opportunities from it, and opportunities that come off years down the line as well. So not everything happens immediately, does it, when you're a freelancer? It could be that you meet one person at a networking group, 6 months later they recommend you for this, 6 months later you do a presentation, 6 months later you get another piece of work, and then when you track it back, you can have had thousands of pounds worth of work from, the start of one connection or one presentation that you've done. I play with it sometimes. Whilst my specialist subject is spiritual intelligence, I love technology as well, and I'm so grateful for all the apps and everything that I have and the things that make life more efficient and easier. So I do play with AI. So I don't use it routinely because I'm very creative and I write a lot. I'm such a writer, so I'll write blogs. I enjoy writing social media posts, and that literally comes through me from another place. So I just channel and it just like comes through and I enjoy the process. So I don't need to use AI like some people do for writing posts and content. But do you know what I love is, because we only know what we know, don't we? You can always get a different perspective. Is I just love having the app on my phone and I'll type in a question to give me sometimes. Maybe I'm missing something, what am I missing that I could be including here? Or if it was like I was trying to work something out the other day and I thought I could do this, but it's not something that's coming from my inspiration. It's fact. I could do this, but it's going to take me quite a long time. And I thought I can ask AI. Um, and the answer it came back with, I actually decided not to do the thing, but that was really helpful because it saved me trawling and trying to work something out. So that's fantastic, isn't it? Yeah. So Often actually as a coach, you're told it's best to have a niche, but I didn't have one in the beginning. I just loved helping people and I loved the process, the whole coaching process. But then as I went through this crazy transformation, my niche surprised me. So I knew I was going to be a coach and I knew I was going to be doing this work. But what I do now, I had absolutely no idea this is what I was going to develop into. So I do have, this specialism in spiritual intelligence that comes from a very genuine place. And the scariest part for me was being authentic with that because it wasn't what I thought I was going to be sharing. And I didn't see a lot of it out there either. So it's exciting to be sort of on the leading edge of something, but it's also really scary to be pioneering something that you can't see out there, that you can't see a lot of. So I think the courage for me was the biggest thing, which I think does go with resilience as well, is that confidence always comes later. So I have a lot more confidence now because that's come from experience and doing the things that scare you. But I had to have so much courage, and I still do value courage immensely, to be unique, to send your authentic message out there, and to trust that if you have this authentic side that needs to be shared, that there are people waiting to listen to it. You can't see that first. You have to just trust it and go with it. So the more I've allowed myself to do that, the more it's worked for me. So I just encourage people to be authentic and talk about their own experience, because as a coach, it's very easy to sort of preach or put yourself out there as an expert and be telling people what to do or how to think, or not that coaches tell particularly, but what I'm trying to say is that if you just do it from your own personal experience, it gives you credibility. I think if you're looking at making the leap and it does feel like a leap, there's much practical advice out there, but I won't regurgitate any of that. What I would say is we spend a lot of time in our heads and we spend an awful lot of energy and time making a decision without making a decision. And so if you get into the stage where it's just going around, the same thoughts are going round and round like a washing machine, it's because the head can't do that job. It's not equipped to take on such big decisions, the ego mind. So go into your heart, because I do believe that the heart guides you. And if you genuinely feel like you have something to share and a mission, I think it's quite good to have a mission that's bigger than you as well. I know mine is, it's way bigger than me. So it kind of gives me permission to get out of my own way, is to listen to and tune into that and make that louder than the rumination that's going on in the mind. Because nothing can ever, it doesn't mean that you can't change. It doesn't mean that you can't go, oh, I tried that and it didn't work and I actually prefer to be employed. That might be the reason that you go and do it. Who knows? Like, but you just got to be prepared to go on the journey. And all the time, I would say, it's something that I've come to learn, is reality is a result of our perception. It's a result of our internal belief system. So what you're going to have, the biggest challenge we all have, is the challenge of our own beliefs. What are we choosing to believe? And are we choosing to tune into the fear-based thoughts? Are they louder than the passion that we have for doing the work? And then, try and balance that. So, yeah, it can be really challenging pricing your services, especially if you have been employed or had a structure around that. I've worked in sales a lot and business development, so it's money has always been a conversation. But it's different when it's you. Like I found the hardest person to back was me, actually me. If I was in a position, I loved service delivery and I loved relationships, so I would always deliver and do my best, and I did very, very well. But when it's yourself, that's a really different thing. So, yeah, typical research, finding out what's out there already to benchmark your prices. I mean, for coaches, there's lots of coaching directories where you can see what people charge, and there's lots of advice from the companies you train with, etc. But I think I probably went in a bit on the lower side until I got the experience and the reputation. And that just was in my comfort zone. So some people will say, oh, aim high, you should be pitching this. And it depends. It depends. If you're talking to a corporate business or a one-to-one individual who, is in a normal job, those are very different price scales. However, when people say aim high, go for this, if that aim high figure puts you in a real place of discomfort and you can't convincingly sell that, don't do it. Like, it's, if you've got to go with your own threshold, haven't you, and what you think. Always good to aim high, but also to be in alignment with how you feel about what you're doing. Because if you really love what you do, you'll just grow in reputation and experience anyway. So my one-to-one fees are 3 times what they were when I first started. And that's extremely good value, because I'm a very different person to when I first started this business. And then I would also have different price points for work that I do for corporate businesses, because I've now evolved into workshops and programs and things for small to medium businesses and larger ones. So you just work on the size of the business as well. That does make a difference, and what you're being asked to do. And I think as well, you can't always get this stuff right. You have to have the experience. So sometimes I've learned how to price myself by doing a lot of work and realizing how much work it was. So now I actually have a price structure for whether I was going to deliver something for 2 hours, half a day, a full day, what my travel costs are on top of that. So I have different breakdowns as well. And I am flexible, but equally, there's nothing worse than feeling resentful over a load of work that you've done. So you can't be in that state, because that's not a good vibration. So you've got to make sure you're getting paid for what you're doing. I'm a huge advocate for personal development. Obviously, it's what I do as well, but I really, really do the work on myself. And I think that's part of my credibility. I'm always working on myself. Not because there's something perpetually wrong with me, but you don't want to slip into the danger zone there. But I just find that we are so fascinating. And every time I think I know myself, I get to another layer and I peel the layer back. So I've completely got rid of the idea that we will ever know ourselves, in totality, and that's okay. We're all work in progress, aren't we? So I think personal development on yourself, if you're running a business or you're a freelancer, is so important. And you can decide how much of that is going to impact your clients as well, and your services. But yeah, personal development. I did loads of qualifications in the beginning, lots of CPD work, read tons and tons of books, found really excellent sources of references, and researched a lot as well. I'm a natural researcher and an eternal student. And then now it's sort of shifted a bit for me now. It's more about going within, and I meditate a lot. So I access other sources of information, which I never knew existed. And so I'm just more confident in what I know now, and now drawing it more from me and discovering what more is in me, and how I react to certain things and respond to other things. And yeah, if you're just very curious, I think curiosity is one of the best states to be in with yourself and other people. Yeah, so I do enjoy social media, because I enjoy writing, so I enjoy sharing. Not so much, not so good at selfies, but I will get better at that. But I do like providing content. But that's not where most of my business has come from. And from what I've seen so far, I don't believe that small businesses or sole traders go online and explode with their services. Even when people have posts that generate a huge amount of traction, the sales off the back of it aren't necessarily there. So I think, don't fall into the trap of thinking that you're going to go on social media and your business will explode, because oftentimes as well, when that's happened, it's come off the back of years of work. I remember putting my first blog out, God knows how many people, probably a handful of people read it. Now I can see the numbers on my stuff, but it's taken time and reputation and repetition and consistency. So I think your great might certainly, for me, it's been real life connections, and a lot of my connections on social media are the people I know, love, and have met, and talk to in real life. So don't underestimate the power of actual connections. I would say on your freelancing journey, number one is be passionate. You can't achieve anything else without being excited about what you do. And passion comes across to people as well, doesn't it? So do what you need to do to stay in that zone. Surround yourself by the best people. That's really, really important, a really positive tribe. And believe in yourself. And I would also say, don't limit yourself, because what you think your business is going to be and what you think you're going to be doing is great, but it might be bigger than that. It could be bigger and it could be more exciting, and there could be opportunities that come your way that you've never even thought of. So stay open to possibility. Well, yeah, so the most rewarding part of freelancing for me has been the genuine connections that I've made and the people that I've met and got to know and love, who I wouldn't have had the opportunity to. And the people get to work with as well, my clients and the people I engage with in workshops, they just fill me up. Like, it's fascinating to me to meet open-minded people. Um, yeah, there's just so much to people, isn't there? So I love that about it. The personal growth as well that I've experienced. Um, and for me personally, I went on through a spiritual transformation, and that may not have happened this way if I wasn't self-employed and a freelancer. Um, and to discover this unique specialism that I have now, that I've got a mission to do, but I want to do it with more fun now. Over the challenging parts. I'm sure there'll be more challenges, but I've got such an amazing tribe and such an amazing network. I know I could pick the phone up to so many people and say, "Oh, I need help," and they would help me in a heartbeat. And that is just the power of a good network, isn't it? Of genuine connections. So I absolutely love that. And yeah, I'm just excited about having more fun, have the faith and the confidence now to do my work and really enjoy it. I'm not trying to convince anybody either. That's really freeing. Yeah, so here's to more fun.